Hey everyone, welcome to this next video where today we're going to be making a simple basic beef stew. Nothing fancy here, just a basic beef stew recipe that you're going to be able to make with a lot of the ingredients we've used before, for example in a little soup. I'll just run through a list of the ingredients first as well. Also, I just want to say a big thank you to the sponsors of the videos. It's been absolutely great, and I hope that people keep watching the videos and keep subscribing. So we're just going to go through a list of the basic ingredients that we're going to need for this stew. Okay guys, so a couple of things we're going to need here. First of all, just going back to the little soup recipe, some key ingredients here. We're going to need 2 sticks of celery. We're going to need 2 medium to large onions. We're also going to need 2 sliced carrots. As you can see here, I've already bought these store-made sliced carrot pack, which is about roughly the same size as 2 sliced carrots. It's a lot easier, saves us cutting them up as well. We're also going to need diced beef, around about 400 or 500 grams of diced beef cuts. They should be, if you can't get diced beef cuts themselves, if you get a kind of beef steak and you're going to cut that up into kind of centimetre square pieces, that'll be absolutely fine as well, but I prefer just to use the ready-made kind of diced beef cuts. We're also going to need a tin of chopped tomatoes, just the 1 tin of those. We're going to need some olive oil as well. We're also going to need around about a pint or 500 millilitres of any kind of stout or ale. I've just gone for Guinness here, basic kind of stout or ale. We're also going to need salt and pepper for seasoning, and also some herbs. The herbs that we're going to need are these bay leaves. You can either buy fresh bay leaves or you can get the dried bay leaves, which I've got here. The dried ones I like because we can stick them. We're only going to use a couple of these, maybe about 3 or 4. The rest of them we can repackage and keep for later on for another recipe. So that takes us through the ingredients. Oh, sorry, yeah, we're also going to need some plain flour as well, but only a heaped teaspoon of plain flour. I just prefer to buy the own brand white plain flour. It does the business, nothing fancy here. A heaped tablespoon of that will do us. The rest obviously you can keep for other things like cooking, baking and that kind of thing. So if we just get started on chopping and prepping our ingredients now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just kind of prep and chop our vegetables. Now I've already went ahead and chopped up the onion here. So these are the 2 onions that have already been chopped. Now, they're roughly chopped, they don't need to be chopped in any fine or diced kind of way, just roughly chopped into kind of stew, so don't worry about that. Next thing we're going to do is chop our celery. We're just going to roughly chop that as well, so I'll just chop that up in nice chunks. That's fine. Now, before I've chopped the celery, I've obviously washed it and I've taken the ends off the celery as well. As you can see, they're much smaller than they were when I showed you them earlier. Normally the next thing we'd do is chop the carrots, but I already have the carrots pre-chopped. Basically what I'm going to do now is put a pan or a casserole pot on a medium heat. It can be a casserole pot or a kind of soup pot. The soup pot that I was using earlier on for the lentil soup. So I'm just going to take you over there and we're going to put that on a medium heat with some oil. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do now is preheat the oven first of all to 180 degrees just to get it ready and set for when the stew goes into the oven. So we just set this to 180 degrees and we'll come back to that later. Okay, so we've got a pan on a medium heat. I'm just going to add a couple of lugs of olive oil there. That should do it, around about 2 tablespoons. Next thing we're going to do is add in our veg. So we just want to pop our onions in there. So that's the onions and the celery going in. And I'm also going to add in the carrots as well, which have been washed before they went in. I'm just going to pick up some onions that I've dropped here. And what we're going to do now is give that a little stir. And we're also going to want to add in our bay leaves here. So if you add in about 3 or 4 bay leaves, that should be good enough. So just going to break these up into the. So these are dried bay leaves. Just make sure you don't put any stems in there. And if we give that another little stir, already smelling great. And what we want to do is just let that fry off now for about 10 minutes. So if we just pop the pot back on there, we're just going to let that fry. Okay, so basically our vegetables and our bay leaves have been simmering away, kind of melting down for about 10 minutes now. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add in our meat, a heaped tablespoon of flour, and we're also going to add in our ale stout, which in this case is Guinness. So if you just want to grab this spoon, first of all I'm going to pop in a nice heaped tablespoon of flour, pop that in there. I'm going to pop in our tin tomatoes and also our beer or stout. Next thing we want to add in is our meat. Okay, so if we give that a good stir, smells great. Good stir there. Also going to give it a good dose of salt and pepper. So pepper in there first. And a good dose of salt. Give it another big stir. We're then going to pop the lid back on and we're going to want to bring this to the boil. So if we whack the heat up and give that a couple of minutes, we'll bring it to the boil. Gives us a chance to clean up. Okay, so as you can see, we've now brought this to the boil. If we give it a bit of a stir, just make sure we're getting everything off the bottom of the pan. Oh, it's a bit hot. What we're going to do now is put the lid back on it. And if we get it down to a simmer, and we're going to pop this in the oven for 2.5 hours. Now it's going to go in for 3 hours in total, but we're going to put it in with the lid on for 2.5 hours, and then we're going to take the lid off for the last half an hour of cooking. So in total we're going for 3 hours, and that's at 180 degrees. So if we open our oven up and pop the pot in, just take that out. And pop it in. So we're going to give that 3 hours at 180 degrees, but if you set your timers or alarms for 2.5 hours, at the 2.5 hour mark we're going to take the lid off, give it a stir, add a bit of salt and pepper again, and also just pop it back in there for another half an hour before we taste it. Now that gives us good time to clean up, and it also gives us time to have a lovely glass of wine, so enjoy. Okay guys, so it's been about 2.5 hours since we've had the stew in. Now it should be just about ready. What we're going to do now is just take it out, give it a quick stir, and maybe add some water if it's a bit dry.
So it is looking a bit dry there, so what I'm going to do now is just add some water. And we're going to pop this back in the oven for around about another 30 to 40 minutes. With the lid off.
Okay people, so the stew's had about another 30-40 minutes there just to finish it off. We've now got a nice lovely stew here, which is great. As you can see, it just falls off the spoon. Now just make sure before you plate this up or go to store it, if you're wanting to maybe store it for later in some kind of container, that's something I'm going to do. I'm going to store it in an airtight container just like this one. But just before you do that, make sure that you take out all of the bay leaves, because obviously if you leave them in there, someone's going to get them in the mouth. It's not going to be very nice. So as you can see just before the video there, I've taken out the bay leaves from the stew. So just make sure that you do that. Don't forget that. That's a key kind of thing not to forget. What I'm going to do is just kind of plate a bowl of this up for my girlfriend Jill just now, just to see what she thinks of it. So give me 2 seconds. We're just going to ladle this stew into a bowl. Just to give you an idea how beautiful that stew looks, and it smells absolutely delicious. And I guarantee you, if you make this basic stew recipe, you follow the instructions and the method exactly, you're going to come out with a really, really nice stew that everyone's going to love. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do with the stew. You can obviously just have it as it is just now, just a plain simple stew. But if you also want to kind of pimp the stew up a bit, what you can do, dumplings, you can make up dumplings, which I'll maybe show you how to do that in another recipe video. And add the dumplings into the stew as well, just reheat it again with the dumplings in there. You can also make a kind of puff pastry lid for the stew, so if you want to plate the stew up in a casserole type dish, a round or rectangular casserole dish, and if you make up some puff pastry or buy the ready-made puff pastry, which is a great thing, the ready-made puff pastry is really the way to go nowadays. It takes far too long to make puff pastry yourself, too much of a hassle. This is all about basic cooking, of course. And basically layer that on top and keep the stew again on top with puff pastry there. That will give you a lovely kind of puff pastry crust. Other things you can do with the stew, you can maybe make up some mashed potato. Again in a casserole dish, add the mashed potato on top of the stew, reheat it again so the mashed potato is nice and crispy on top. That's going to give you a lovely kind of cottage pie type stew. You can also, if you want, make some kind of hot pot. So you put that in a round casserole dish, get some potatoes, cook or boil the potatoes up, then slice them into kind of circular shapes, and then just basically layer those around the top of the stew. And again, pop it back in the oven for about 30-40 minutes. That's going to give you a lovely kind of hot pot as well. So I really hope that everyone's enjoying the video so far. Thanks once again to everybody who's subscribing to the videos, also everybody who's liking the videos, liking the pages on Facebook. Make sure you sign up and subscribe to the account. Also make sure you sign up to the Facebook page or follow the Facebook page that I've set up. The link will be on the Simple Cooking channel homepage on YouTube. There's also a link there to the Twitter account, so if you have Twitter, make sure that you follow me on Twitter, and there'll be updates coming there as to when next videos are going to be coming online, just general ideas as to what's going to be coming up on the channel. It's also a great way for you to send in any suggestions, any recipes that you would like me to make, and also any maybe tips or advice that you've got for me. If you see something in the recipes that you think I may be doing wrong, or you see something that you think, well, I'd like to maybe add this to the recipe, I think that would make it better, or in the past I've added this and it's made it a lot nicer, then please feel free to either comment on the comments section down below the videos, or alternatively on the Twitter or Facebook pages. So just want to say a big thanks again to everyone who's watched the videos. Keep watching, Next video, I'm hopefully going to be making some kind of tomato soup, just a nice, again, basic, simple tomato soup.